Well, hello everybody, and welcome to another episode of Meepleville Meets. This week, or this episode actually, we have somebody who is one of the nicest, friendliest, greatest people you will ever meet in the gaming industry. Please welcome Zev Shlasinger. I hope I said that right.
That's good, man. That's good. Thank you.
Okay. Please welcome Zev Shlasinger. Zev, currently the head of board game operations at WizKids. Is that your official title? Is that correct?
Yes.
And he is also formerly the founder of Z-Man Games. We're all familiar with them, some of the great titles they brought in. So today we're going to learn a little bit more about Zev and just see what he has to tell us. So anyway, thank you so much for joining us, Zev.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me, Tim.
Yeah, where am I talking to you from, by the way? Where are you right now?
At my home. This is my office down in Florida.
And are you originally from Florida?
No, New York. I've been down here almost 7 years.
Oh, okay. What part of New York are you from?
Grew up in Brooklyn.
All right.
Then ended up living upstate, about an hour north of Manhattan, in a town called Mahopac or Mahopac.
Oh, okay. Yeah, very good. Because I'm from Connecticut, so I'm part of the tri-state area too. So.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. We were actually very near Danbury, so like off I-4, I think. I was like, I think 15, 20 minutes from Danbury.
Yeah, Danbury is right on the western edge of Connecticut, borders New York right there. Yeah,
that's where we used to go to the Danbury Mall every so often to hang out and shop and stuff.
There you go. So you're a true blue New Yorker. Are all your allegiances with the sports teams and all that kind of stuff from New York as well, or what?
If you put me in a corner, I'd probably say yes. It would probably be like New York Mets or something. But honestly, I stopped following sports so long ago. I just got frustrated. Yeah, I got frustrated with professional sports and everything, and I didn't want anything to do with it anymore.
Yeah. But also, so just a sidetrack real quick. Hopefully, you've been healthy, your family been healthy, and everybody been okay during this.
All good. Yeah. All good. We're doing the things we need to do.
Oh, yeah. Good.
Hope by you as well.
Yeah, absolutely. That's really good. So I want to talk a little bit about a whole bunch of stuff with you, if you don't mind. But first of all, about what you're currently doing as the head of board game operations for WizKids. So if you could just tell the audience a little bit about exactly what your job entails for WizKids and what Zev Shlasinger brings to the table.
Well, my job is to find games and develop them if needed and bring them to market. So I'm always looking for board games, card games, dice games, and if checking out prototypes, play testing, doing any dev work or giving feedback and helping designers do dev work, and doing all the processes getting to the market, hiring artists, working with my team to hire artists, graphic design, and so on. But yeah, it's pretty much what I did with Z-Man, but not all the day-to-day operations and the accounting and invoicing, all that. It's really the creative part of getting a game from prototype to retail shelves. Right.
Now, was this position designed specifically for you, or was there one in place? Because WizKids sort of wasn't really known for a board game company. Is that correct?
Yeah, they did some board games, but really like once in a while. But obviously their most famous one, Mage Knight, really broke through the marketplace there. But they didn't focus on that. HeroClix was their main thing, and other miniature type stuff, Star Trek Attack Wing, and so on. So to answer, yes, this was made specifically for me. When I announced my departure from Z-Man Games, they hired me to head up their board game department.
Okay, and how's it going so far? I mean, so from day one, since a brand new position, to be the head of board game operations and try to increase, obviously, revenue into the company by generating more board games, how is it going so far?
I think very good. I've been with the company 4 years because I joined them in 2016, so actually like 4.5 years already. And hit the ground running. We came out with a few games already in that first year. One of them still doing very, very well, the Rock Paper Wizard.
Okay.
And then, next year we hit with Sidereal Confluence, and then a few other games. So we've been, and Fantasy Realms. So yeah, I think we've been doing pretty good. I mean, it's a hard market.
It is.
There's a lot of games out there, as you know, and even more nowadays over the last few years. But yeah, I think we're going strong.
And what I don't know if you know the exact numbers, but as far as the whole entire operation of WizKids, since again before you said Mage Knight was pretty much their sort of cornerstone board game, what percentage of the WizKids total operation does board games consist of?
Honestly, it's probably even now like maybe 10%.
Oh, really? So
yeah,
okay.
Yeah. Their focus, if you notice, we have HeroClix.
Mhm.
They also have unpainted miniatures, which is a big thing for them. A lot of Dungeons and Dragons and Pathfinder unpainted miniatures and painted
Right.
as well.
Yeah. We carry those absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Retail though, they've been great price points and stuff. Those beholders are amazing. $5. I think that would be the big thing. And then of course we just released the Warlock tiles. This is like a dungeon room building set, but also other accessories. I think there's town and village stuff, but you can make your map, your rooms out of these tiles, out of these 3D tiles. It looks amazing, honestly. It's not my department, but it looks amazing. I have to admit that, of course, but I had nothing to do with it. But those are the big sellers for them, sure.
Okay, and is there a projected goal, whether it is company directed or from you, where they hope board games become a certain X percentage of the company? Is there something laid out for that?
No, I don't think they're looking for X percent. It's just more do what I do, come out with what I feel are great games and hopefully meet success in the marketplace. And I think we've done that with several games. Plus, we got a bunch of upcoming games that have been getting good buzz, and I think will warrant a lot of interest from board gamers. But there's no goal except to, not hemorrhage cash,
Right.
which would be most company as a whole.
Right. And I know this might be hard to answer, but since you were like, your own company, Z-Man, and you called all the shots, did all that kind of stuff, and essentially it was money coming out of your pocket. Now, and I know where you're going with this saying, I'm not saying you're doing anything nefarious or anything, but is it different when it's not really your money? Do you know what I mean? Like, how does that feel, or how is that different than with your own company?
Well, it's different in that I don't get final say. Right. That's the biggest thing. But I've never been one to take ridiculous risks. I've taken risks, but not like I'm going to do 30,000 of this game because I believe in it. No, I know the marketplace, and I'm not going to force that. And even with Z-Man, I very rarely took a big leap. I did it on like a 1 or 2 games, and I got burned on 1.5 of them actually, a bit. But honestly, I kind of got used to it because after I sold Z-Man, I worked for them for 4.5 years in the capacity of what I'm doing now, which is acquisition, right? Finding games, developing games, getting them to market. But I didn't do the day-to-day stuff for 4.5 years. So really, the person who owned the company at the time would say, "Okay, yeah, Zev, you said we should do this game. No, we're not. Okay, well, I did my job. I sent you a game. I'll keep looking for more stuff." And they said yes to some, no to others.
Okay. And when going to this new position with WizKids, of course, it was sort of like a 2-step process. What I mean is you had Z-Man, the company, then you sold that off, but you were still on, running the company essentially. And now you're with a completely different brand. If you could explain the sort of how your relationship with other publishers or with game companies is able to go with you, or is there kind of like where you are no longer able to do them since they were with another company? You know what I mean? Like how does that whole work?
Do you mean? I mean, I'm exclusive with WizKids. Is that what you're asking?
No. What I mean is, for example, like say you were with when you had Z-Man and you had a German company, I don't know, whatever German company, and then you go and then now you're with WizKids, a different company. Is there like a code of ethics where you either can talk to them still, not, or you know what I mean, like taking customers from?
I see what you're saying. Yeah. Well, usually there's a like a non-disclosure type thing, but when I left, that stuff was over with. But I don't think it impacted anything because when I found games for WizKids, then I would go to my contacts, and honestly, I found a lot of new contacts as well because so many new companies formed up. I would tell them, "Hey, we have these games. Are you interested?" and or they came to me. Sometimes they heard the buzz on some game and said, "Hey, I heard about this, Zev. Is this available for our territory?" And we would discuss there. But yeah, usually when you sell a company or something like that, there is a non-disclosure period where you can't like take business from someone. But this is because there was not an exclusive. Like if there was an exclusive German partner, I couldn't go to them and say, "Hey, you want to work with me?" No, because they had an exclusive contract. But most partners, it's not exclusivity. It's like, yeah, we're looking to do German language games of any type of game. So it's really an open market for whatever's of interest to them.
Oh, okay. All right. Very good. And how is the relationship with the German partners? And I know, because you've had a long history of developing that already, but is it, 'cause I'm just so fascinated why Germany is the epicenter of like the Euro games. And maybe what is your feeling about how that is happening?
Well, I think they had a particular market way back even even before the 90s and stuff. But obviously we saw with Settlers of Catan, I think that came to the US around 96 or so. But I think by then people were saying, oh, there's this whole type of style of game that's German, we called it at the time. Now it's called Euro, right? A Euro style. But I think back then it was just German style because they were the big territory for these type of games. I think now it's not only them. There are so many players there. You have the Czech Republic. You have people in Poland. You have all these other countries that have the same kind of style of game, and some of them also like the American style, whatever. But I mean, it's not just German only. It is really, I want to say even worldwide. I mean, because look, Asia opened up so much. The Japanese, I worked with them back in with Z-Man. I formed a relationship with them around 2004 or 5 or 6 or something, and I helped bring in a lot of Japanese games there. So it wasn't only German. It's pretty much worldwide.
Right. Yeah, no, it has. Yeah, games it's grown tremendously. I'm sure since you started, and you've seen like the growth. It's been fantastic. But again, just a little bit about the connection, because I just remembered something. One of my questions I had. So when WizKids released, because one of my favorite games is Agricola, and they released the color packs, with the decks of cards and all that kind of stuff.
Oh yeah.
Was that like your relationship from with when you had Agricola that you got?
So I knew Agricola. I knew the people, Hanno and them. But actually, my boss, Justin, he also knew Hanno from the old Magic the Gathering days and stuff. I think it was more because we do miniatures. It was something, it was an idea to do upgrade packs. And we did Betrayal on the House of the Hill. We did new Omen dice, and we used the people with discs for sanity track and stuff, so not the paper clips, so something to upgrade the components. And I think after that, the Agricola idea came about, saying, hey, here we know this is a popular game. What can we do to upgrade that? And that's where the miniatures came in. I think I'm the one that mentioned, is that enough? Maybe we should add cards, and therefore new cards were done. But I don't remember. It was like sort of, I came in maybe in the middle of that conversation. But I remember saying that, we should have cards so that people buying these miniatures would have some new content as well to play in their game, not just the miniatures. But I think that was just more of a side business. So that's our accessory business.
Okay.
In a way. So that's another category that WizKids opened up.
Right. So obviously, I don't know if that's necessarily under your purview, because you did say it's accessories. But since it is a board game, for example, Agricola, and as you did mention, Betrayal at House on the Hill, whose idea is it to do the upgrades or the extras? Is it the board game coming to WizKids, or is it WizKids presenting to the board game?
I think I believe it was WizKids presenting to the board game. So and it's not under my aegis because it's not a board game. It is an accessory. So I just gave a thumbs up and said, yeah, that sounds great. But I had nothing to do with it. With the Betrayal, we have a very good relationship with Wizards of the Coast. We do a lot of their D&D themed games, plus, of course, the unpainted miniatures and all that. And I think it was just that stemmed out of the relationship is like, hey, can we do this for you for Betrayal? And from that relationship, that was born.
Okay. All right. Very good. And so let's go and let's talk a little bit about bringing people up to where we are right now. So, of course, you founded Z-Man Games,
Yes.
and I believe you did it in essence because of the card game Shadow Fist, or is that
Yes.
kind of the story?
That is, yep. I did it to bring back my favorite collectible card game, Shadow Fist.
Okay. So, in other words, it wasn't being produced. Like, what was the impetus? What forced you or drove you to say, "Hey, this is something's not happening. I need to do it."
So I'll go back a little further. I was into I was always a gamer, but I never really started going to conventions until Magic the Gathering. I was actually a Pro Tour judge in 1996. I was one of the first Pro Tour judges. So I was heavily into collectible card games. I played a lot of them. I also demoed them. I was part of a group in New York-based group called Arcane Circle, where we demonstrated collectible card games for companies. And they would bring us to Gen Con and Origins and local cons and so on, and stores. We did a lot of store stuff. But anyway, fast forward 95, Origins 95, I discovered Shadow Fist, fell in love with the game, said I'd love to represent it. So I started doing demonstrations for it. And in 96, an expansion came out. And then the company went out of business. I think there was another expansion planned, or it was late. It came out like in 97, but then the company folded. So what happened is, okay, I mean, it was a shame, but I would go to conventions, my friends and I, and we'd be doing other games, teaching other games. But in the evenings, we'd pull out our Shadow Fist decks and we'd start playing Shadow Fist. But every time people come up to us and would say, "Oh, no, I didn't know people were playing Shadow Fist. I would have brought my cards." And that was the start where I finally turned to my friend. And it could have been after like the 20th or 30th time, honestly, where I turned to my friend. I said, maybe we should bring these cards back somehow. And that's where the idea formed. That was about 97 or so, maybe even early 98, where we said, let me investigate what it would take to do this. And honestly, at first, it was going to be, if I could just make new cards for me and my friends and the fans, I would be happy with that. So I could play with new stuff, But it turned into a little bigger than that. Yes.
Yeah, obviously it did. So maybe if you could share with us how exactly a publishing company sort of starts, because nowadays it just seems like there's a lot of them, right? Like,
Right.
There were, several, right? Big ones, Z-Man, there's like Rio Grande, Mayfair, but now there's just like so many. They could have one game be a publishing company. So how does just a publishing company start? What goes into as far as like the incorporation, the licensing, the trademark? Can you maybe just tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. I mean, probably like most people, I started with a search, at least in terms for the legal entity stuff, right? I knew nothing about business. I didn't go to business school. And so it was like, okay, how do I form a company even? Okay, let's, but even actually, I'll go back because I didn't form the company yet. What I needed to do, so the two things I needed to answer. One, was I going to make this a small thing where, again, just new cards for me and friends, or was I going to really try and resurrect the game? So that took a while. It took talking to a bunch of people, getting their opinions, looking at the state of the market, talking to some people at conventions. I think I talked to some other publishers or just looked around and see what was going on. And then I think finally the decision was made, okay, I think we need to do this as a professional thing. So that was the other thing. That was the first thing. Then it was a matter of, well, what's it going to cost to do this? And what I did was I found a printer in Canada, and I asked them to quote me the price to do this, because the other thing was, how much money am I going to need? Now, remember, there was no Kickstarter or anything back there, although you'd still need to know what funds you needed. But I had no idea what it was going to take to make this happen. And it took having quotes from this printer to give me an idea of, okay, if I do this professionally, this is what I'm going to need. And then it was, how do I go about getting that money? But once I knew that I can do it, that's when I started incorporating. And just to let you know, so it was, Z-Man was not the original name of the company.
Oh, what was it?
There was no name yet. It was going to be multiplayer games. It was going to be Shadow Fist games. Then I was like, oh, do I want to tie it to the product? And then I think it was the printer that said, well, we need something to put on our form. And I went, and I had a friend that used to call me Z-Man for short, so I'd say, just put Z-Man Games for now. I might change it.
Right. Okay.
And then I forgot about it. I was like, all right, Z-Man Games, that's what it's going to be on the quotes. So when it came back, and then finally it became time to incorporate and say, okay, we can do this. We need this kind of money. We're going to make it professional. What are we going to call the company? And I said, all right, well, how about this Z-Man Games? We'll keep it that way. And they went, my friends went, yeah, that sounds cool. And that was it. And then I did research on how do you incorporate, what kind of corporation. I found an accountant. I asked their opinion. So it was really a lot of research, at least in that business end, because, again, I had no experience in that. But finding out what kind of entity I needed to be, I think I started out as a C Corp, or no, an S Corp. I think it was like a private corporation kind of thing. But I was like, all right, sure, if that's what you say. I didn't know, whatever. I just followed the advice of the accountant. And then I found someone to help me make the legal papers. So we had to sign, all that stuff. That's what the state kind of thing where you do a certificate. You had to do a search, make sure nobody had the name, of course. But I was pretty safe with Z-Man Games. Yeah. So that was the process. So it's really it sounds, I guess, like it sounds like a lot, but it didn't. But it really went rather quickly because all these processes are in place to making corporations, right? Or to making entities. They're all there, all the forms, legal Zoom, I think, right? Everything is there. So you can just do it. You just need to know, are you safe to do it? Do you have the funds? I forgot how much it was. It was like $1,000 to set up, $1,500 to set up, something like that. And that was it. That's how I did it.
But also what I'm trying to understand too is because if Shadow Fist was your bread and butter, or if that was earning, how long was that able to carry you through where you're kind of like, okay, I can continue this company, or this is a real legit company? Because, of course, card games come and go and, things rise. So where did it just turn from Shadow Fist into, oh, okay, you know what? I can do this, that, where you're like, yes, okay, this is going to be a real legit sort of business publishing company.
So we first published our product in 2000. Gen Con 2000 was our premiere. We had a new starter set and a new booster expansion. So we started out of the gate with, you can if you're new to the game, you have starters. If you're fans, and even the starters had new cards. So we made it appealing to the fans of the game to get new cards that way. But of course, the booster expansion was mostly for the fans or somebody who loved the game so much after buying the base starters, they would buy these expansions. So that was the first thing. And it did very well. Our Gen Con premiere was fantastic. The goal then was to have another booster expansion in the next year, 2001. So we were looking for one a year. That was the plan so far. What happened in between the 2000 Gen Con and 2001 Gen Con was that somebody showed me a game, probably, I want to say, in the winter of 2001, like spring 2001, and they showed me a B-movie card game called Grave Robbers from Outer Space. A friend of a Shadow Fist fan said, hey, I got this game. Do you think Zev would take a look at it? And his friend said, I don't know. Let's give it a try. They showed it to me. I love B-movies. I happened to do that. I said, sure, I'll take a look at it. It was funny. It played, but it didn't play as well as I wanted. But I made one change that, to me, made the game work absolutely. And I said, all right, I'm still doing Shadow Fist. I go, but let me do this game. It was easy, small card game. Again, I got pricing. Let me see how I did. I think I even did this one in the U.S., I believe. Cardamundi had a U.S. office. I think they just bought a printer back then. I was able to use them, and I said, all right, let's give it a shot. So without any fanfare, I premiered it along with the Shadow Fist in Gen Con 2001. And the B-movie thing, by the end of the show, sold out.
Wow.
And we got amazing buzz. I had retailers and distributors coming to me and saying, when is this coming out? I'm like, I think September I'll have it. I was shocked.
Right.
But what was interesting is not only the success of it, but it was how easy it was, and not in terms of make it, because I had to learn, okay, well, this is a new thing. What do I do? And we had to learn on the fly. I had to get artwork. I had to do this for this. I had to change it. But doing a collectible card game requires a community, really, because you need a lot of playtesting groups. You need retailer support. You need tournament support. Organized play. There's so much that goes into it. With Grave Robbers, it was like, boop, here you go. Nobody asked questions. Well, how does this interact with this or this? I'm like, no, there was like no questions on how to play this game, and it was like, wow, that's kind of refreshing and nice and easy. This is kind of cool. So it ended up where I said, okay, and the B movie did very well. I said, all right, I will continue doing Shadow Fist, and for 2002, I'll do another B movie set, and that's how that started coming along. But of course, now people were saying, oh, you did this B movie game. Would you like to see, because I'm making a lot of contacts and everything. They're like, would you like to see other things? And I'm like, okay, sure.
Okay.
And in 2002, I came out with another B movie, another Shadow Fist. And then I think we did WarCon, Clash at Sigillus. This was my friend Tony Lee. He showed me this cool, innovative, everything was in a book.
Okay.
And the bookmarks were the units. So the book was the rules in the battlefield, and the bookmarks were your units. And I said, oh, this is amazing. I'm gonna try this one. This is such a cool game. And really, that was it. It wasn't the plan to do this other stuff. It was, if it came my way and I liked it, I'll give it a shot. So
okay,
but
let me ask you a little bit then about the B movie card game. So with Shadow Fist, you obviously had a proven product. Okay. Now all of a sudden somebody's coming to you and be like, hey, Zev, here's this. And was it a matter of being naive, or were you so self-assured? And I don't mean, cocky or whatever, but were you so positive in your ability to see a good thing that it was full confidence or more naivety? Like, what would you think?
I think it was more the game made me laugh. It really did. And I said, I want people to laugh. When I play it, I see people laugh. I love seeing people smile and laugh. And that's why even I like Shadow Fist, because Shadow Fist was not full-blown comedy, but it was light, and there was some funny flavor text and funny things. This was full-blown, light-hearted comedy and so on, and I loved it. I really did. So it wasn't a matter of, is it going to sell? I don't know. Was it a great game? That was okay. It was good, but and we always saw that as half the fun is reading the cards.
Right.
That was it to me. But it was also just such a low risk, right? I mean, it was a card game. It was 120 cards in a tuck box. I was going to sell it for 15. Someone out of Alliance said, at the time, the big games were like lunch money, and there was like one other game, and they were about, I think, $17 at the time. Okay. So I was going to do $17, and then it said, nah, don't do 17, just go to 20. And I'm like, all right, I'll go to 20, another $3.
Nice.
Nobody balked. It was, it was great. It worked out fantastically, but it wasn't out of any great planning of this is going to be a success.
Right.
So
let me ask you then, during this time, so we're still in the years of about 2000 to 2002.
Yeah.
I don't know how Zev was paying the bills. Did you have a full-time job still, and then this was able to support you, or did you leave something to do this? How was Zev supporting the bills during those years? So
I actually got a part-time job. So I left the company. I left somebody I was working with for a very long time because it was someone in a person in a wheelchair. I helped them get around. I loved it. I did it for 14 years, but I was getting older. He was getting older, and I'm like, I don't have a future here. There's, when you pass, this guy was like my father. I'm like, when you pass, I got nothing.
Right, yeah.
I'm living hand to mouth. I'm paying bills as I'm getting them. I'm working like that. So I said, I have to do something else. So when I started Z-Man in 1999, and then I published in 2000, I was recommended by somebody who knew me. And again, this is a lot where my contacts from the past came in. They recommended me to a New Jersey company who was getting into, they did one collectible card game that was terrible, but they had the WWE license. Back then it was WWF,
Right.
World Wrestling Federation, now World Wrestling Entertainment.
Out of Stamford, Connecticut, so I know that.
So you know, that's right. It was Comic Images, and I got the position of gaming manager, I think it was called. I ended up being the commissioner of Raw Deal, which was the name of the card game. So it was a WWF card game called Raw Deal. I was brought in as the person who knew gaming from the company, because that company before, they just did a lot of pop culture stuff. At the time, they were doing WWF Bears, NASCAR Bears. They were doing bubblegum machines. They were doing Betty Boop. A lot of pop culture type things. But they wanted to get into games, and they had the WWE license. So that's what I did. And what was cool about it was, obviously, I told them I had Z-Man games, and they're like, okay, we understand. As long as you're doing your job, you can do the Z-Man job. But why it worked out so well was because they had to go to Origins. I had to go to Origins. They had to go to Gen Con. I had to go to Gen Con. So we always had our booths together so that I could do my Comic Images work. And when I'm needed over at Z-Man, I just walk 5 steps or so, and I can answer Z-Man questions. So that was a big thing. So it was a part-time job. I think I went into the office 3 days a week. I was a commissioner. I helped organize play. That one I did a lot. I mean, yes, I didn't run the company, but I did also a lot of gritty, the tournament organizing, the promo, sending out stuff. I did customer service. So I did all that stuff. And then at the same time doing Z-Man. So Z-Man was paying some bills. Like you attributed like part of my rent to Z-Man because I was working at home. That was my home office. But I was making a salary from Comic Images. Sorry about the camera keeps going. I don't know why it's zooming in and out.
I think when you move your hand or something closer.
That's probably. I can't help it. I'm from New York.
Me too. From back east, yeah, you got to talk with your hands and stuff. So we're still around 2002 now. We're moving along. You have a couple of card games. You were just about to say somebody presented you with something else. But what was your first foray into an actual board game, maybe something out of your comfort zone, and was that scary for you, or what was that first experience like with a board game?
So while it didn't have a board, but it was considered to me a board game, I did a game called Ideology. Ideology was presented by my friend Andrew Parks, where he actually pitched me a card game called Camelot Legends, but it was tied up with another company. So while we were trying to resolve what was going on there, he said, well, I have this other game, this politically themed game, and it played like a board game because, you had a tableau in front of you. You're playing influence in that. I thought it was so well done. Such a great little game there. And it was like, you know what? Yeah, I'm going to do this. I really like it. This is a really good game. And again, this is like 2003, I think, maybe 2004, roughly. But I was like, yeah, let me give this a shot. And it was hard in that I had to determine a lot of things: price point, what I'm going to make the cards out of, how I'm going to do the graphic design on all of this. But it was mostly cards and like square tiles that represented locations. So and tokens. So I guess we were still in the printed form, not too far from just cards. It was this other stuff. But it wasn't, it wasn't pawns, it wasn't, dice, it wasn't all these other components that I had to deal with. So I guess I still felt comfortable with that, but it was still scary, and but it was interesting. Again, it was one of those things where it's like, well, I do want Camelot Legends. I want to establish a relationship with this guy, so I'll do Ideology, and then hopefully Camelot Legends will be available, and I'll be able to do that. So yeah, that's really how the board, my impression of what the first board game was Ideology. And it was a small square box game, almost Cosmos 2-player size, but deeper. $25. The art, it wasn't really great in the art, but it sold out. People, despite some of the bad stuff, and even the material wasn't that great, because I didn't know about 2mm thick cardboard at the time. Really, I wasn't familiar with all the the jargon and all the average style of game. I guess even back then there might not even have been, but I guess I didn't follow all the German patterns of stock, so to speak. It sold out very well. The main complaint I got was, even aside from the look of it, but that one people didn't, they ignored it after a while. The biggest complaint was people said, I bought this, but I didn't laugh. It's not funny. And I was like, I never said it was funny. But
right.
You did Grave Robbers and you did Shadow Fist. They're all light humor. This is not. I go, I never said it was. And in that way, I said, oh, I'm glad I did this because I didn't want to be pigeonholed into doing only comedy, doing funny games. So I'm glad I did this because it broke me out of a potential pigeonhole.
Okay. Well, again, so talking about the pigeonholes and then where you were with the company and what was going on, at what point was there sort of a decline now in the collectible card games, say with Shadow Fist, and an uptick all of a sudden now in board games where the light went off in your head where you're like, okay, I might need to maybe shift gears here? Like, did that actually happen?
In a way, yes. I started, I was a member of BGG, BoardGameGeek.com. I signed up there, I think, in 2002 or something like that. I heard about them, but I think even though I looked beforehand, I officially signed up, I think, in 2002. I just saw the trend and the clamor for more board games and for bringing in more of these great German-style games. And I said to myself, there was a point where I was saying, you know what? This is going to be the thing. This is going to be the big thing, and I need to be a part of it. And that was probably 2004, I want to say, 2003, 2004, because I think 2004 is when I brought Primordial Soup, which might have been the first real board game, because it had a board. So it was, so that there was a definite gear switching, but it wasn't that I'm going to do Shadow Fist less. It was like, I have the opportunity to jump on this. Let me do this. It was not impacting Shadow Fist at the time. Shadow Fist was still doing one set a year. I think at that point, I might have also done another starter set, or it was upcoming. It was one of those. But I was still doing Shadow Fist, and I had a great demo team. We had all our everything was working with Shadow Fist already. It was, you still needed to be there and do stuff, but we weren't trying to figure out things anymore, of course, except to how to make it even more popular. But I think we already knew that. I don't think we could have made it any more popular than it was. But that was so it was around 2003-ish or so. I'm going to say that, looking at the trends and the clamor and people bringing in German games and Rio Grande getting such big, press because of all the stuff they were bringing in, because they were the main company that brought in German games. That's when I said, so there's going to be a lot of games here. I need to, not only do I need to be part of it, I need to be in the top 5 of game, because so many people are going to be doing this that I don't want to be closed out at all. And when there were so many games out there, I wanted to be one of the companies where people said, oh, Z-Man Games produced this? I'm in.
Nice.
That was my goal. So I really made a goal where I said, I need to be in the top 5. I need people to say, I'm one of the companies they will always consider to buy from in a board game. And that was a conscious effort.
Okay, well, I'm glad that you said that, because now I want to know, if you have that mentality and that's what you're thinking, okay, I need Z-Man to be in the top 5. Obviously, you can't be doing this. You can't be giving the full effort to your part-time job over here, right? So at what point were you like, okay, if this is your goal and your mission, where was the point where Zev said, you know what, that's it, I have to be all in?
I was forced into that. So in 2006, I was laid off from Comic Images because the sales of Raw Deal had gone significantly down. What's interesting is we had great sales in like Chile and Singapore. We're talking, a lot of money for the year. but it was only successful when WWE had like their pay-per-view available in that country. Then all of a sudden the game exploded in that country. And for some reason, so Chile and Singapore were two very big countries for the game. But when the pay-per-view disappeared, then sales disappeared there. So along with a lot of expansions and a lot of craziness that Raw Deal was getting into, it just wasn't viable anymore. And in 2006, the company said, "Okay, well, it's not worth keeping you on for this game." And so I was let go, and I'm like, "Okay, cool." I mean, I'm still doing my Z-Man gig, but I was thinking, what am I going to do next? So at the time, I still wasn't thinking doing Z-Man full time. I was actually considering doing some video game stuff because I thought, I had a nice resume, right? I had art direction. I knew art. I knew how to get stuff done. I knew production. I knew some of these other things, and I knew community services, and I knew that a lot of video games need community web people. So I started looking for video game jobs while doing Z-Man. And there were a couple where I might have had, including one I interviewed for someone in California. And I didn't think I was ever going to leave New York. And this was like the small window where my wife said, "Okay, if we're going to go, sure, we'll go if we have to." But I didn't get the job in California because they changed it. They wanted someone who could make websites and stuff. I go, "No, that's not me. I can't do that." I also applied to Upper Deck. At the time, Upper Deck had 7 or 8 positions available, of which 7 of which I was qualified or overqualified for because I did all that stuff already for years. At the time, like 6 years already. But then they all went internal. And so with those opportunities closing, and the fact that, hey, wait a minute, I'm still around. I'm doing stuff for Z-Man. I'm getting my bills paid. Maybe I should be doing this full time. And I think in like early 2007 is when I decided, all right, I'm in it. It's Z-Man all the way.
Okay, so
anywhere else.
Okay, so that's great. I mean, it's great for the gaming community. Yeah. We're starting to get to like where all of a sudden, boom, your dreams are all realized and you're in the top 5 is coming true. So at 2007, you're all in. What all of a sudden now is the big kind of making Z-Man get to the world stage where people are like, yeah, Z-Man is the company. What happened?
So I never had the single hit, right? I didn't have the Ticket to Ride. I didn't have the Zombies. I didn't have the one game that set the company ablaze. But what I did have was, and I was happy for this, I didn't have the one big game, but I had 10 or so or more pretty good medium-sized hits. And that was doing good. I had a lot of evergreens. I remember.
Okay, what were some of those titles, if you can tell us?
Saboteur. No Thanks, which was Geschenkt.
Yep.
I had done a 1960 Making of the President, which came out in 2007. I did Prophecy by Vlaada Shvatal. That was like one of his early games, a nice fantasy, a talisman-like game. That was doing well. I'll look at my archives here to remind me. I always forget. So a Fairy Tale at the time. A lot of the Japanese games were doing very well for me. So again, these were all small games that had hits that were evergreen titles, and and the B movie stuff was still selling. And at the time, by 2007, I had already, I think, 7 versions of the game. 7. I did with 7 genres, although I went back to horror 2 other times. So I had Grave Robbers from Outer Space, Cannibal Pygmies in the Jungle of Doom, Kung Fu Samurai on Giant Robot Island. I had all these, so the B movies were still going. But obviously, the big thing was in 2008, I got the 1-2 punch of Pandemic and Agricola.
Yeah, and let me tell you,
it came out in February. Agricola came out around June, and that was the rocket fuel.
Yeah,
that propelled Z-Man beyond.
Yes, and let me tell you, any game company is envious and jealous, would love to have that for a 1-2 pitch. Now, I was very fortunate for anybody watching. Zev and I got to spend. I was just amazing, and I love this story. At the gathering, it was just him and I, and he told me the whole story. We had played Targi. I think you taught me how to play Targi.
Yes.
And we sat and talked for a while, and it's just so. Do me a favor and tell the people about the pandemic story, because I just think it's so great. Because, and I'm sorry to tip a little bit here, which just really shocked me, is you weren't the first company that was pitched to. Other publishers actually passed on Pandemic. So tell us about the story.
So I knew nothing about Pandemic, but Matt Leacock pitched me some games. He, at the time, he was self-publishing some games, and he sent me Lunatic Loop, which was a car racing game. And then we met at the gathering in 2007. We met at the gathering, and he showed me a game that was called Ants, or it was about ants. I don't remember the name. And this was like my last day at the gathering, and we're playing Ants. And I remember I had to catch a plane, and I left as they were scoring. So I had to rush out, and I was like, I'm not really crazy about this one. I didn't like Lunatic Loop. But he said, Zev, I got another game that I want you to look at, and I'll send it to you. And I said, okay, send it to me, and I'll look into it. And what he sent me was Pandemic, which I happened to get to the table. Now, sometimes playtesting, when I get a prototype, sometimes it's lucky and I can get it done in a couple of weeks. Sometimes it takes a few months. It depends on when I meet my group, what comes out of the game to get played there, and so on. But Pandemic, I got, and I happened to get it to the group within, I think, 2 or 3 weeks or something. I just brought it out. So here we played this game. He told me it was all co-op and all that. I'm like, okay, fine. Hey, cool. Don't worry about it. I'm going to try it out. And we were playing the game, and I still remember it. It's just amazing that the first time when the Epidemic card came out, and this is when you had to start placing the new 3 cubes and then do the whole Epidemic phase, everybody got out of their seat and like, and when I saw that, I go, oh, come on. If you get a reaction from that, from a game, yeah. I was like, I got to do this. I don't even care what happens later on. I'm doing this game. That was it. and that's it. I told them, I said, all right, I want this game. And I'll tell you, people told me that you're crazy. Don't do this game. It's all co-op. Nobody does all co-ops. Co-ops don't sell. There was one by Knizia, years and years ago, Sauron or something. And that you could add a trader, maybe, I don't remember. But he said there were no old co-ops. I said, I don't care. This is just what a reaction and such a fun game and so different. The theme, I even love the theme. It's so different. And I said, yeah, I got to do this. And I told Matt, all right, Matt, I'm doing it. All right, let's go for it. And so this was already in May or June of 2007, I'd say. And I got the game out in February, or like end of January, beginning of February, 2008. I mean, that's how fast I got it out.
So if it came out that fast, here's what I don't know about. I don't think you might have told me about. If it got out that fast, and maybe what other people might be interested in, at what percentage? So right now on my shelf, because I have Meepleville, I sell games, is Pandemic at 100%. At what percentage did you test it at that night? So how much more did you bring to the game before it got out?
I think we finished that one game and I didn't play it again.
So you mean basically what Matt gave you was basically what's on the shelf right now?
Yes. I think I'm trying to remember. There was something with the population, but I don't know if he didn't have it and we added it, or he had it and we had thought about taking it out and we put it back in. But there was, if I remember correctly, there was no development on that game. It was, obviously we had to do the art, graphic design, and all that.
Right, yeah.
In terms of design, I don't think we did any development at all. And he didn't have to, if I remember, he didn't have to go back and tweak anything. I'm trying to think, did he tweak a character or two? I'm going to say no. I'm going to say it came, that's the way it was. I didn't have to do anything to it.
Okay, now since you were so excited about this, and you said when the people got up from the table and everything, and you got it done in such a short turnaround time, what was your print run?
3,000.
Okay, now at that time, was that big, small, medium?
That was my norm. That was my average. I think It was always 2,000 to 3,000, and depending on the type of game, but I generally at the time went to 3,000. So that was my normal print run.
Okay, so is that telling me that you weren't that enthusiastic about it? I mean, and what I mean is, Zev, is that you're like, yeah, this is a good game. I'm just going to make a normal print run. Is that where you were with it, or you know what I mean?
Yes, yeah, I was excited about the game, but I didn't take those kind of risks. I didn't go crazy with it. That's how. So go back a little bit. So my friend and I, we used to joke. We used to say, how many disasters will it take to bankrupt Z-Man Games? Well, it was always, for the longest time, it was always one, right?
Okay.
When you start out, you make one big mistake, you're out of business.
Yeah.
I think by the time Pandemic came out, I was maybe up to 2, possibly 3, but you'd have to be really bad disasters. But this was not one I was going to take a chance on and say, yeah, I'm going to do 10,000. I was like, no, it's a great game. I don't know how it's going to do. I like it. Let's see what the people say. So I didn't do anything any more risky on it. Maybe I paid a little more for art. Maybe I paid a little more for graphic design. So I tried to do it that way. But the print run, I was like, nope, I'm not going to go crazy with it.
Okay.
And at the time, I don't think I went crazy. I'm trying to think. Even at that point, I don't think there's any game except one, and because it was sort of a requirement, where I did more than 3,000. So it was my normal way to go for those 7 years or so.
Okay, so then how fast did that go, and how soon was the second print run, and did you increase the number on the second run?
So I released it end of January, beginning of February, to no fanfare, of course. There were no conventions, nothing. I'm at a show. I'm at PresCon. And this is the third week of February. And I'm with my friend. And by the way, I keep saying friend, and it's usually the same guy, Paul Girardi. He's my friend. He's the guy I played Shadowfist with and all that. And he was always the guy at the booth helping me out at Z-Man for like 11 years or something. It was now, so it's him. So I spoke to Paul. I got off the phone so the third week, I got off the phone with a distributor who put in an order for Pandemic. I remember I'm at a show, so I'm like, okay, whatever. I got off the phone, and then I looked up and I went to Paul. I go, you know what, Paul? I just got an order in. I'm sold out of Pandemic. That's the fastest I ever sold out of anything. 3 weeks.
Wow.
I was like, I'm sold out of this game. And I was like, wow, I don't know what to do. This was unexpected, So to get to the second part, so I went back to the printer and said, I need a reprint. The printer did not want to do it because there was this whole scandal with them and the rep that I was using, that they had used. It was a whole thing there. I won't get into it. And basically, they wanted to double my production price. And I said, well, I can't do it if you do that. I go, well, that's what it is. I said, well, then I can't use you. And therefore, the game was out of print for about 6, 7, maybe about 7, 8 months or so, because I had to find a new printer, which at Origins of 2008, a printer came up to me. I did one game with them, and I said, hey, do you want to do this game? They gave me a good price, and they did Pandemic, but I believe I only did 3,000 again. Because, again, I didn't know what to expect. So I go, all right, we sold 3,000, very nice. But it doesn't mean I'm going to sell 20. I'm going to say, okay, maybe I'll sell a little more. I'll risk 3,000 again. I think that's fair. And it sold out very fast. And then it was like, oh, okay, I'll do again. I might have gone to 4,000 or 5,000 at the time. Again, I didn't want to jump because many games, right? You got the sales, and then you never know when it's like, boop, immediately. And I didn't want to get caught. So I'm like, as long as the price is right, I don't mind doing some reprints. And I'll just keep an eye on it to try to pull the trigger on reprints faster than usual. But yeah, I did 3,000, I think, for the next 2 or 3 runs. And then maybe I started going to 5,000 or so. But then, of course, as the orders started coming in, when the distributors were ordering, okay, wow, I got 8,000 in order. I go, well, okay, now I'll do 10 because I know I got 8,000 sold. I'll do that. So that's when I started trusting to do a little more. But I didn't just go willy-nilly and say, all right, I'm doing 20. This is my big hit. I took my, I didn't want it to be one of the disasters that bankrupted me. I figured I can do it like this. That's fine. Even if I don't make as much money, I'll still make money, of course, and I'll just reprint.
Right. So, yeah. So during this time of the 6 months that it was out of print or whatever, your number 2 punch was Agricola.
Yes.
But if I'm not, correct me if I'm wrong. So you were the publisher for Pandemic. It came to you. Z-Man published it. With Agricola, wasn't that maybe Lookout Games, and you were the was it different? Because
yes, that was a license, so it was Lookout Games. Again, going back in time. So when I made the conscious decision to be in the top 5 board game thing, I knew I had to get board games, right? I wasn't getting pitch board games, but I knew I had to bring some in. My biggest competitor at the time was Rio Grande, of course. I went to Essen, and everyone was like, oh, I'm working with Jay. I'm working with Jay. So it's like, all right, I got to find someone who's not working with him that had a game that was worth bringing in. And the first one, one of the first ones I saw was Primordial Soup. A lot of people, it was on a lot of wish lists, a lot of Holy Grail type geek lists that said, oh, we want to bring this in. I said, let me see what it's going to take to do. And I was able to make a deal with Doris and Frank. I was able to bring the game in. I was able to get it at a price. It was, I think at the time, $50 retail. So, which no one thought could happen because it had 300 cubes and you had the hex-shaped cubes and stuff with octagon-shaped octagon-shaped amoebas, and you had the dowels that go in there. I mean, I was like, I don't know how I'm going to do this. This is going to be a very interesting thing. But anyhow, so what happened was I started establishing relationships with other companies. I became friends with Amigo. I got Saboteur, and I got No Thanks. And then I made friends with Lookout Games. And I brought, at the time, I brought End of the Triumvirate from them, and that did actually very well for me. And I did Scepter of Zavendor, which at the time, people were playing German copies with English mock-ups that they would tape onto the cards. They'd have English language stuff there. So I said, all right, that's a burden. That's a lot of work there. And actually, what's funny is Agricola, that was happening in the beginning. People were getting German copies and putting stickers on them. And I even played a copy like that. But the thing is, I established a relationship with Lookout. So when Lookout released Agricola, and it was the darling at Essen of that year, everyone said, oh my God, you got to do it. You got to do it. And publishers lined up. But Hanno from Lookout said, Z-Man gets first dibs.
Oh, nice.
I go to. And again, that was part of my plan, was to network, right? To make friends, to be seen as the go-to person for English language, at least to be bringing stuff there. And it worked. People were coming to me, and finally Lookout said, Zev gets first dibs. And as a joke, he would actually, when people said, oh my God, I want this game in English, what do I have to do? And he would say, go to the Z-Man booth and tell Zev, do this in English, do this in English. And I had about 30 or 40 people coming up to me, do this in English. And I'm like, all right, already, I'll do it. And I went to Hanno, yes, I'll do it. Don't worry about it. It's done. Okay, we're going to do it. And that's how I was able to get Agricola from everyone else at the time.
Wow. That's fantastic, because, again, to have a year like that just must have felt so good, right? Because I'm sure financially it was a huge windfall, yes. Right?
Absolutely. I was always at a plateau, right? You go, how do you get to the next level? And it was always like here, and I'm fighting other companies, and I'm trying to get, and not fighting when I say, I'm competing. Right. We're all friendly competitors because we all help each other all the time. But it was like, what do I need to do? What game? What's going to be my breakout thing? And that's what was able to, get me to that breakout, to that next plateau, and really get my name out there. And also, I don't know if you remember, with Agricola, I did a pre-order system actually for it, because I still wasn't sure. Yeah, I still wasn't sure it was going to be a big hit, because when it was all told, it was going to be a $70 game. Okay. So it was like, who's going to pay $70? I mean, how many can I really sell at $70? That's a lot of money. Back then, 50 was the eyebrow raising, and if you went above 50, people were like, I don't know, that's a lot. So it had to be a $70 game. There was no way around it. So I actually did a pre-order system, and I said, if I can get 1,500 orders, it's a done deal. And actually, I offered even the stretch goal where I said, if I do this, I'm going to add Meeples. And that's where the first animal Meeples, because it was going to be all cubes. The original game had cubes only.
And the round discs. Yep, I remember.
Yeah, that's right. But I said, whoever does the pre-order, you'll get Meeples in your thing. And then that became the standard after a while. But yeah, I made the 1,500 within, I think, a few weeks or so. And I was like, all right, sure, I'll do it. This is great. And again, I only did 3,000. I was going to say 2,000, but I probably did 3,000 as my first order.
Oh, okay. Zev, so we're just like in an hour. I don't want to take up all of your time. I do want to just like maybe finish this point and
I'm fine. I'm fine. Whatever you want, buddy.
If you don't mind, maybe I can we can do another thing because I've got so much more to talk to you about. But in order to end this, I want to kind of continue with this Agricola thing to have me understand and the audience as well. So now with pandemic, you do everything. Shipping, boom, 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 boom. It's your game. When you are licensing, as I believe you said, can you maybe tell us what, like maybe percentage, I'm not looking for exact figures, but like what percentage or what is the Z-Man involvement in getting the game? Because you're now probably not responsible for getting it made. I don't know. You know what I mean? So what is your involvement with a licensing as opposed to the full kit and caboodle?
Well, usually with licensing, and there's two ways you can go with it. One, you can do the production yourself. The other way is usually the licensor, in this case, Lookout Games, they control the production. And in this case, they control the production. So it had to be at the factory they used to do their games. So I was, whatever price they gave me, I had to adhere to based on the level of how many games I was producing. So really, all I did was I proofed the English language stuff. So I went through all the cards. I went through the rule book, and I proofed all that stuff. I got it edited. But then after that, I gave all my changes. They actually did they finished the layout. What's interesting is they already had a lot of it in English already. So they just gave me the files. I proofed them, and then they just fixed it internally. So I didn't even have to get my own translator. I didn't have to get my own layout person or anything to do it. They had it all set, which was amazing. And at the time, and it seems to be mostly common that because they know English is going to be done at some point, whether they sell it at Essen or not, that they have the faculties to do a rule book in English, cards in English, and so on. But anyhow, most of the things were in English. I proofed it. I sent back my proofs. They fixed it, looked it over again. I said, good. And then they went to the printer, and then I handle the shipping after that, meaning I say, okay, printer, when it's ready, here's my here's my freight forwarder information. Please go with them, ship it into this port, bringing it to this warehouse, and then we ship out orders.
Okay, but now as far as the a little bit more of the process, I'm looking for a little bit more detail. If maybe you can offer,
Sure.
Like, does it work on a contingency basis where they do all the printing and all that kind of stuff, you do that, and they send you the games, you sell, and then pay them later? Or do you kind of buy there, like, for just a lack of a better term, I'm buying from Germany. Once it leaves Germany, then it becomes me, and all the money made is mine. And I know there can be different kind of deals made, but can you maybe explain a little bit that process?
Yeah. So again, it is a choice of depending on how they do it. In this case, I paid a royalty. So yes, you could buy it flat out, meaning the partner will say, okay, here's your cost. And the cost would be the production cost, any royalties, any fees they want in one lump sum. You can pay it in one lump sum. They release the games to you, and then it's yours. And then you sell it for whatever you want. And you keep everything because you've already paid, because you said, here's the money. In my case, it was all royalty based. So it was based on sales. So I had to keep track of sales. And every quarter, I would send in a report. I sold this many games here. I sold some games at conventions at this price. I sold everything else at this price. I owe you this amount of money. Here's a wire transfer, and so on. So that was a royalty basis. I just paid Lookout. Lookout used some of that money and they took care of paying Uwe, the designer, his cut. So I didn't have to do that. I just paid my fee to look out, and then they took care of the rest.
Okay.
That was the deal there. But the other way to go is to do the flat kind of thing.
Okay. So as a business person, and again, I don't need exact numbers or anything, but is it more profitable, less profitable, or does it work out to about the same doing a licensing royalty or all you with, say, Pandemic? You know what I mean? Like, is there a big disparity as far as the profitability?
Usually you do a lot better if it's your game.
Okay.
If you're the original designer. So it's hard to say, right? Because Pandemic was a $40 game versus a $70 game. So you have to take that into a factor. But if you did dollars where it's $40 game this way, $40 game that way, usually the one that you own is the best, of course. Okay. But the royalty fee that I was paying was just a little higher than what I'd be paying a designer. So I was not making that much less. The sticking point was, because I didn't control production, maybe I could have had it produced for less, but I didn't have control over that. And of course, shipping from Europe is more expensive than shipping from China, because you have a lot more things coming in from China. So the container from China is usually 1,000 or 2 or whatever, depending on the type, less than now. I guess that adds to minimum if you're doing 3, 4, 5, 6,000 units. You break it down per unit, it's like pennies here and there, but it's still a factor to consider. Right. But certainly if it's your own game, that meaning it's an original design that came to you, you can make more from it. And then of course the other factor is, because Pandemic is mine, I can sell licenses to everybody else. So I can get ancillary income that way. And this way, I only had English language or Agricola. I had nothing else. So I couldn't expand to do anything else. I was, And then the other factor would be, of course, control, right? Let's say I said, oh my God, Agricola's doing great. I want to do an expansion. If Lookout says, no, we don't want one, then it's like, I can't do one. But with Pandemic, I could say, I'm going to make 5 expansions. Okay, go for it. But that's all on me. That's my decision.
Right.
So there's that factor as well.
Yeah, there's so much, man. So Zev, I'm sorry, we're gonna have to. There's so much more. Again, I'd love to do this another time, because again, you keep bringing up questions, because now I'm wondering about the licenses, like with Pandemic. Like, do you have right of first offer, to get the expansions and all that kind of stuff? There's just so much to talk about. And also, folks, Z-Man is responsible for a lot of games. Just in case you're wondering, I know that name. Shadow Hunters, Terra Mystica, Carcassonne Publishing, and so many more. So there's so much we want to talk about, because right now, if you look at our conversation where we've been talking, we're just up in 2008 with the fantastic year of the 1-2 punch with Pandemic and Agricola. But Z-Man, as far as Zev being the full owner, was only up until about 2011. So he still have a couple more years, but then he stayed on with the company until about 2016 and then left there and now is with WizKids. So as you see, Zev has so much more to talk about and so much more we have to find out about him. And hopefully, with Zev's approval, we'll be able to do that in another episode. What do you think, Zev?
Absolutely.
Okay, good. I'm going to remember we're at this point. We're going to bring you back more. But folks, thank you so much for joining us for another episode here of Meepleville Meets. And we promise we'll come back with the interview with Zev Shlasinger Part 2 soon enough. All right. Well, thank you, Zev. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you. My pleasure, man. Bye.